What is up, guys? We are here today to break down WrestleMania 38. Today is the official WrestleMania prediction show. I know we still have Friday Night Smackdown, or should I say WrestleMania Smackdown, that will be airing on Friday. And full disclosure, today is Wednesday, right before Dynamite, I should say. But I will be traveling to Puerto Rico, like I mentioned last week, so I won't be back until next Wednesday. Obviously, I'm gonna miss everything. I'm still debating on if I'm gonna just completely try to avoid Twitter or if temptation will take over and I end up checking things out. But regardless, I'm gonna try to do a mini-ish week in review, probably Thursday, if everything goes well timeline-wise. And that's actually going to be kind of fun too, because I'll be able to break down both nights, obviously, of WrestleMania, and then the fallout on the Raw After Mania show, which is back in the day used to be pretty big, and one of the main things to make sure you're a part of. I know me, for instance, when I went to WrestleMania 35, like I was almost more excited. Not more, maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I was just as excited, I should say, to attend the Raw After Mania as I was to attend WrestleMania itself, too, because it's just, that's the hardcore, the diehard fans that are still hanging over from all around the world, right? So, especially now that the travel restrictions are up, I know my friend Ali is coming over here from the UK, which is totally cool, so it's just exciting, and like I have mentioned myself, I know I'm not really looking forward that much to this year's WrestleMania, or maybe I should say, maybe that's not the right way to put it. I should probably rather say that my excitement level isn't as high with this one as it has been with others in the past, but I do think this is going to be like a sleeper WrestleMania in a way. I think it's going to be one of those where the card looks decent, depending on who you are. A lot of people just shit on everything on the card, regardless, but a lot of it, isn't, for instance, how I would have laid out the story to get to our final destination here, but I think the matches are going to deliver, and I think we're going to be surprised by a lot of matches. For instance, the Pat McAfee and Austin Theory match. I think that's going to be a pretty good match for what it is, you know what I mean? I'm not expecting it to be a 5-star classic, but Pat McAfee, if you guys have seen any of like the clips that he's put out, like on his YouTube and via Twitter and stuff like that, regarding his preparation and his journey here, this dude takes it seriously. It's not just some payday or some joke to him. Like, he does not need the money at all at this point. And good for him. But that's just one example of like a match that I think a lot of people may be shitting on going into it, but I think is actually going to surprise a lot of people. But I'm not going to waste too much time here. I'm definitely going to get into the card. The match layout isn't in any particular order. Obviously, we did just break it down for day 1 and day 2. But as in regards to the opening match or the main event, kind of just listing the matches out here and just kind of going out of order in that respect. But I will make a prediction for the main events for both nights as well, since that has been a big topic. I'll go with the easy one first, right? Day 2, no-brainer, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Obviously, that you can bet anything on that. But day 1, I'm torn on it because, and until we really see what the whole KO show ends up being, that whole segment, I think we'll obviously, hindsight's 2020 at that point, but we'll be able to obviously tell if, oh yeah, for instance, like it was brilliant to put it in the main event. That's a great way to send everyone home. Or putting it either at the opening of the card or the middle of the card to kind of anchor everything would be a good placement for it too. And I say that because if it's just going to be not just a regular talk show segment, but start out that way and then KO says something or pushes Austin or does something to provoke Austin, and then Austin snaps, hits his, I don't want to say his 5 moves of doom. I don't know why that popped in my brain, like Cena, but his little signature moves, right? Like the Irish whip, just everything, like everything that we know Austin for, the mud hole stomps and the turnbuckles. So I don't know. I think it really depends on what we get out of them, and if it's just going to be an Austin beatdown segment on KO, which again I'm totally cool with, then I don't really think that should close WrestleMania. And call me crazy, guys, but I feel like that's a good maybe not direct middle of the show, but maybe second, or not second, but maybe third from the top. So I don't know. Like I unless you're going to get much more out of Austin and KO, and especially if this leads to anything after WrestleMania itself, then that's a different story. But it really just depends on what they're going to do with that segment. But if it is just a regular talk show-ish type segment, then I would be in the camp of giving it to the women, and not Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey, but rather Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. I know if the women are going to get the main event, it's most likely going to be Rousey and Flair because of just who Rousey is, which is whatever. But I don't even... And part of me is kind of even questioning if it's of more of like a biasness on my behalf, with thinking that the women should main event and at least one of the nights, and obviously, there's no way they'll main event night 2, and to be honest, they shouldn't. That's not the drawing power of this year's WrestleMania. But I don't really know why. I just feel like the women, and more so Becky and Bianca, because if we're gonna compare both stories, like, I still don't know what the hell Flair and Rousey are really fighting over. Like, besides the fact that Rousey is the Royal Rumble winner and she chose Flair, which cool, but like they're just not fighting over anything. They're just fighting to fight. And maybe that's cool. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but it's just so forced, and that's why a few months ago I thought they would be crazy to even go Rousey and Flair, and they obviously did, and I still think they're crazy, for the record. But moving on here, and we're gonna get a little bit deeper into day one's card, and then obviously day 2. But yeah, I don't know if I rounded that little tangent there, but yeah, I think Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair would be my final choice for main eventing day 1 of WrestleMania. Day 1, night 1, whatever. You guys know what I mean. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think on Twitter. Always at ASHMANNS, and the show's Twitter page at @KickAssPodcast_. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna get better at checking the DMs as well, to be honest with you guys too. And a little side note here before I move on. I don't have notifications turned on for any social media that I have for either the show now or myself. I still have, obviously, the apps on my phone, but I just don't have the notifications turned on for them. And it's just a personal thing that I elected to do a little bit ago, maybe a month, 2 months ago. But yeah, so if I'm not ignoring you guys or anything like that, but I do apologize for the delay. But moving on here, guys, to day 1 itself. The first match we have on the lineup here is the Raw Women's Championship, speak of the devil. The champion, obviously, is Becky Lynch, defending against Bianca Belair. And especially with what happened this past Monday on Raw with Bianca cutting some chunks out of Becky's hair, which was kind of surprising. Yeah, I feel like this was already a no-brainer with Belair winning and redeeming herself from SummerSlam and everything like that with the 26-second loss. And part of me feels like they're going to keep it on Becky for whatever reason. And maybe it's me just always never trusting WWE at this point, but I just feel like there's like a 10% chance, a 10%, like 10% of me feels like WWE would just keep the title on Becky just to screw with everyone in the audience, because we're going to get, I'm sure, feel-good moments throughout the rest of the card. So I could see them wanting to and probably contemplating with it, but if I had to make an actual bet on it, my money would be on Bianca Belair. Becky did actually post a picture today on Twitter with her new haircut. She got some bangs and all that shit, so looks pretty cool. It is what it is. She was probably already planning to get the haircut and work that into the storyline, which is so cool. And I love when wrestlers, male or female, do stuff like that, because especially with the hair, if you're going to get a cut and you're in a deep storyline, why not tie it into your story? Just an extra little step. Call me crazy again. Maybe it's just me, but I don't know. I was at first surprised, and I was kind of scared that Bianca was actually going to get her braid cut off, because to me, that's such a, maybe again point out the obvious, but it's just such a big part of her character, and I don't want to see her lose the braid right now. So I'm happy that she was able to fend off Becky and literally reverse tables and give Becky a nice little haircut. And it again, just to kind of wrap up here, I I wouldn't be surprised if WWE were to keep it on Becky Lynch, but my official vote here is it's going on Bianca Belair. They may have a rematch because why not? They have nothing else to do unless Bayley or someone were to make a return, which I'll get into at the end. But yeah, my money again is on Bianca Belair, and Becky will move on to do whatever unless they go immediately to a rematch, which wouldn't be surprising. Next up on the lineup, we have The Miz and Logan Paul versus Rey and Dominic Mysterio. Again, it is what it is. I'm not even gonna rant one way or another on this one. It's fine at this point. The issue I have, we'll get into a little bit later. Not even really an issue. That's probably again over exaggerating it, but the one I'm least a fan of, we'll get into a little bit later on the card, but. The main thing I just don't like about this one, again, was the whole Rey being unmasked and The Miz kind of going that route with the feud and taking it that serious route where this is not a serious match, you know? This isn't an actual, like, feud between Miz and Rey, and I know they had the match at Elimination Chamber, and that's kind of where all this started and everything, but it's never been... At least in my perspective, it's never been like an actual real serious, like, emotional or deep feud. It was just kind of like bullshit back and forth, you know, just to have a match. Which is, again, is fine, you know, whatever. At this point, I get it. I get it's a business, so whatever. And Logan Paul, I'm sure, brings a lot of social media hits and all that. So I understand the idea behind it, but I just wish they wouldn't have done that mask thing. That just kind of deflated it for me. Whatever excitement I had, little bit of excitement I had going into it, it just kind of was derailed with the whole unmasking thing. And again, I may be taking that too personally or looking too much into that myself, but that just kind of derailed it for me personally. But again, this is probably going to be fine, and I wouldn't even be surprised to see Logan Paul try to do like a babyface turn. We'll see if that ends up happening and turning on The Miz, of course. But I see the Mysterios picking up the W here. I think it's going to be another cool feel-good moment for Rey and Dominic. And again, that's always cool, you know. Rey is just such a lovable character and a lovable guy. Like, you just love to see him being able to share all these moments with Dominic, with the son. But to be honest with you guys, after WrestleMania, I would love to see Dominic go to NXT. And again, I know that's nothing groundbreaking and nothing no one else has probably talked about out here as well, but I just feel like Dominic has kind of run his course right now on the main roster. You know, you've already been tag champs, like you've already... If you're not going to turn against Rey, you know, and have a feud like that, then what else can you really do at this point? And I don't think he's terrible. I just think he needs more time to develop, and that's okay. You know, that's a part of everything you do, every job you have, whether it's wrestling or an everyday job. Like, you go through training for a reason, to learn the job, to get better at the job, so you can be the best at your job. So I don't see that as a negative or anything. I think he could go down there and be a big star down there, if nothing else, and be one of the main stay points on NXT for at least the next year, 2 years. And really grow and develop and then bring him back up. So, and I think, like, for instance, a match against him and Braun Baker would be pretty cool. So, just the thought to kind of throw that out there, but we'll see if that actually ends up happening. But with Vince and Bruce Pritchard being so involved with NXT now, it may be more likely than ever before. So, we'll see. But... moving on here on the list, we have Seth Rollins versus Mr. McMahon's mystery opponent for Seth. Again, I was a big fan of the little 5-minute clip of Seth going to WWE headquarters and being a complete lunatic in Vince's office. I think maybe at some points he could have maybe held back a little, but it's Seth, you know, it's what you come to expect from this version of him at this point. So I got a chuckle out of it. So I'm looking forward to the match itself, which there are rumors that a certain someone is making their return for at WrestleMania weekend besides the one that we all are expecting. And I would fall out if it ended up being him instead of the all expected Cody Rhodes. And that individual I'm referring to is the best in the world. Never forget. The true best in the world. Shane O'Mac. Guys, I would fall out of my chair if when I go and watch WrestleMania and it ends up being Seth Rollins versus Shane McMahon. Oh, I would probably be just so astonished in every aspect of the word that I would know nothing else to do but to laugh at that point. And I say that because I know Twitter is going to lose its shit. So part of me kind of wants to be mindful of maybe the time frame on Saturday to see if if it doesn't end up being Cody Rhodes, who it's, again, pretty obvious that that's where it was leading to. But if it were to be Shane McMahon or anyone else for that matter, but Shane McMahon more so than anyone else, I would just die laughing. But that's just, I don't even want to call it a dark horse, but that was just a little article I came across, a little rumor that Shane was going to be back in Dallas for WrestleMania weekend. So when I saw that, I was like, bro, imagine if, and even if, like, I would love it that would probably ruin the moment, but imagine if they just even play Shane's music and he comes out acting like he's gonna face Seth rather, wearing his little button-up, whatever baseball-ish type jersey, mesh jersey that he normally has customized in his little outfit there, but imagine if he comes out and just kind of swerves everyone and then ends up being Cody. But I say that, but I wouldn't really want them to do that. You know, that would kind of, like I said, deflate the tension and the build-up and the moment and the anticipation and everything that everyone's going to be feeling. So yeah, like, if it's going to be Cody, just have it be Cody right off the bat. Of course, have Seth Rollins come out first, have his elaborate entrance, and I'm sure he's going to have some pretty kick-ass gear. But yeah, I think my money is on it being Cody. I guess I should state that for the record. My money is it's on Cody, and he is going to take the W here. And I think, like I said on a previous show, this is just going to be the start of their feud, I feel, between him and Seth. I think this can easily go out to SummerSlam. But I hope and I would love for Cody, when he makes his entrance, to go all AEW. And when I say that, not as a diss or as a fuck you to AEW or anything like that, but just because everyone always talked shit, either in a playful way or in a actual talking shit way, about Cody's entrance, right? Like, he always had the elaborate entrance. He came up through the middle. He never came up through one of the tunnels on the respective sides. He always had a special and, like, pompous entrance, right? And what better place than WrestleMania to have an elaborate, stupid, pompous entrance? And that's why, to me, like, especially when you're making your, I keep calling it debut, and in my mind it is a debut because it's just a completely different Cody, but obviously it's a return. But that's why I feel like at least for WrestleMania, at least for your return, debut, whatever you want to call it, you gotta have the full entrance, the entrance music that he used there, because I'm pretty certain I read that he owns the rights for that. You gotta do everything that you would have done in AEW and that you did in AEW. And again, not a slight to them or to shove it in their face or anything like that, but just because first of all, that's who Cody is, and that's what WrestleMania is, and that's what his entrance, and that's, not for nothing, that's what Cody is meant for. He's meant for the elaborance of a WrestleMania and WWE, like, he's just a superstar, for lack of better terms. But yeah, and I say that, and I just picture that, and I'm sure it's going to be a long entrance aisle, which is perfect for WrestleMania as always. But I just feel like at least for your return, debut, whatever, you got to come out with Brandy too. And I don't know if that's going to get him boos or whatever, but I would probably hold off on Pharaoh, and I don't even think they would allow it, they being WWE. But especially with the pyro that he's most likely going to have and the amount of people, especially with what we've seen Pharaoh kind of get scared of. I think it was Revolution a couple of years ago. I just for the visual, I would love to see Pharaoh, but obviously I would never, ever, ever, ever want to put him in that situation. But just for the pure visual of it, I thought, and I think that would be super cool, but again, not advocating for it. But at least for WrestleMania, I would love to see Brandy come out with him just to kind of complete the package, and then she can kind of, fall off if she's not signed and if she's not interested and kind of do her own thing. So, yeah, I obviously feel like Cody's going to be a big deal, and Cody, this is just the start of a long future, or at least a long 6, 8, 12 months ahead in WWE world. But yeah, if it's not going to be Cody, I can't wait to see the reactions. But I think it's obviously going to be Cody. I would be shocked, obviously, or not obviously, but honestly, rather, just with everything and all the innuendo and everything that WWE has done. So they've done some pretty fucked up shit in the past. We all know that, but I don't think they would even stoop to this level. So moving on here, next up we have Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I still can't believe we're doing this match. We've been doing this since day one, which was January 1st. And here we are knocking on April's doorsteps here at the time of the recording. So I'm just ready for this to be over with. I'm ready for Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss to break up now, and for them to either feud or just part ways, do whatever the hell they're going to do. Leave Drew McIntyre alone, and then set him up for what may happen in the immediate future, which I'll touch on in a little bit here. But my official pick is Drew McIntyre is taking the W here, and then Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss are going to argue and or break up at WrestleMania. Next up, we have the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. The champions, of course, are the Usos, Jay and Jimmy Uso, defending against Rick Boogs and Shinsuke Nakamura. This one is kind of tough, I'm not going to lie. You would think it'd be a slam dunk with the Usos being part of the bloodline and with how strong Roman is right now, but they could take a loss and they can lose the titles and then win them back in a couple weeks or as soon as next week on SmackDown. So, and again, I feel like this is going to be one of those, I was going to say this is going to be one of those feel-good moments, and WWE would most likely put it on Boogs and Nakamura, but I could see them having the Usos retain, too. So, I'm actually pretty torn on this one, but I think I'm gonna pick the Usos to retain, as much as it would be cool to see Shinsuke and Rick Boogs win the titles here. And this is one of those where I could very easily be wrong, and I would not be shocked at all. But I picture the Bloodline just holding up all titles at the end of night 2, which I guess is a early spoiler, but probably not obvious. But yeah, I don't see the Usos really losing it here. So, moving on to the SmackDown Women's Championship match. Your champion is Charlotte Flair defending against Ronda Rousey. Again, not really a big fan of this feud. The build-up itself has been pretty, I don't want to say lackluster, because I appreciate like their brawls. Then I thought their backstage brawl with the whole beat down on the car, that was pretty cool. That was fine. It was kind of like a callback to their build to WrestleMania 35 with Becky involved as well, but it was fine. That wasn't, cringeworthy or anything like that, but there's just no substance to this. Besides Ronda winning the Rumble, there's no reason Ronda should have chose Flair. Like, everything was pointing to Becky Lynch, and I'm gonna hold myself here and try to not go on a tangent because I don't want the show to be too long for you guys, but they just did so many things wrong with Ronda's return, and gonna not be negative also, but I'm just not feeling this match. But again, I say that, and again, I think, like I mentioned earlier, this is one of the matches that is not necessarily a sleeper, but one that we weren't really that thrilled with going into it, but the match itself ends up being better than the build. So I'm gonna hold out on giving or casting too much judgment, but I do think that Rousey is gonna pick up the W here. So I think that'd make her, what, 2-1 at WrestleMania? Yeah, because she won her debut tag team match with Kurt Angle versus, wow, Triple H and Stephanie, which crazy to think about now. But officially, my pick here is Ronda Rousey picking up the W and becoming your new SmackDown Women's Champion. And moving on, and I'm very interested to see who they go with as her first opponent in her first title defense, because I feel like that's going to say a lot. And if they're going to keep her as a quote unquote babyface, or if they're going to just let her naturally be a heel and just kind of go that route. But next up, and the final thing that we have listed here for day one of WrestleMania 38 this year, is Stone Cold Steve Austin appearing on the KO show, of course hosted by Kevin Owens himself. I kind of mentioned it and talked about it earlier, but it's really hard to make any type of prediction with this because we have no idea what this is going to be. But I can predict that this is going to be badass, and it's going to be dope as hell to see and hear the glass break, see everyone just lose their mind in the arena there, whatever the in count attendance-wise is going to be. I think both nights are over 60,000, so I don't really care if they sell out, or I know it's cool to either shit on WWE for not selling out or whatever, but look, to sell tickets nowadays and to get people out of their house and to get people to go to a WrestleMania for a multi-night event that's not cheap, it's a lot, you know. So however many people it ends up being, that's kudos to them. But it's just gonna be cool to see Austin back and to see whatever the hell he's gonna do with Kevin Owens. I'm super happy for Kevin himself. I love the fact that he just recently re-signed for what was supposedly a big deal. And he almost immediately gets rewarded with this segment with Steve Austin. So even if it just ends up being a talk show segment and Austin just gives him a stunner and just drinks some beers and that's pretty much it, I'm happy to see Stone Cold back. And I was, again, in the camp that we don't really need an actual match from Austin, especially against Kevin, with really no build to it. If you're going to get a match from Austin, I think it deserves a little bit more time and an actual story. So if you want to have it against Kevin, cool, but have it play off of WrestleMania and then build an actual substance to the story and then go from there. But regardless, it's going to be dope to see Austin back, and I'm super excited to see what this ends up being. Moving on to WrestleMania Day 2. The first match on the lineup here, again in no particular order, is the title versus title unification match. We have your Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, defending his title against Brock Lesnar, who is the WWE Champion, also defending his title. This match, there's really nothing more to say. I think the history and the story between these guys kind of speaks for itself. And I, again, love this. I love this story and the versions of both guys that we've gotten over the past few months now, because it really, of course, well, obviously longer with Roman Reigns, but more so with Brock Lesnar as well, with kind of just embracing being a good guy more and just enjoying being at work, or at least he looks like it. And if he doesn't, then he is a damn good actor and he needs to stop what he's doing and head to Hollywood. But I just love this version of Brock, and that's why I was a little torn, kind of sitting down thinking about who my official pick was going to be, but to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. I think the story here, is, especially with the go-home promo, I guess you can call it, from Roman Reigns, which I thought was just fucking excellent, too. If you haven't seen it, definitely go out and search for that clip from this past Raw. But Roman Reigns just knocked it out of the park. And he referenced never beating Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. So I think that's just another sign and another reason to have him win on WrestleMania Sunday. So my official pick is Roman Reigns winning the match and unifying the titles. We still have no idea what that really is going to look like coming out of WrestleMania, and it doesn't even seem like Roman Reigns is a fan, because when Brock Lesnar was talking about his title and Reigns' title getting married and having a baby, Reigns didn't seem to be too happy with that, so we'll see, and it sounds like there's going to be some custody issues and maybe some possible child neglect going on, and it's not a good sign for Mr. Reigns there. Just saying, we got to watch how that ends up turning out. But moving on here, we have next up on the lineup, Edge versus AJ Styles. Of course, Edge out of nowhere took a dark and devious turn character-wise. But what I do love is it's not just a oh, I hate you, I hate the fans type of simple heel turn. He went all out, and you would expect nothing less of Edge. But again, it just kind of maybe shows his freedom as well, which rightfully earned. But you just kind of wish more people had it, but that's not what we're talking about here today. But I love everything. Him changing his entrance music, but still sticking with Alter Bridge, which fucking amazing choice. They're great. And the blue lighting is just so great, and it's different from his red brood lighting. There's just so many good things about it. So this match is kind of hard to choose from as well, but my official pick is going to be AJ Styles. I think Edge at this point loses nothing in defeat, but I think AJ kind of would, and I think with everything that AJ's already been through with the concertos and everything that Edge has kind of done to him, AJ deserves his moment back. So I am putting money here on AJ Styles picking up the W, but I think it kind of ends here at WrestleMania. I don't see this one going further, so we'll see if Edge kind of stays in this role, if he kind of turns back to the good side. But moving on, we have the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Your champions are Queen Zelina and Carmella versus Naomi and Sasha Banks versus Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan versus Natalya and Shayna Baszler. Not really much to say here with this. I hope at least your Rhea Ripley's and Sasha Banks get their stand-up moments here. But yeah, I just... This one is kind of a toss-up too, because you really have no idea where they want to go with this division. The easy choice is Sasha Banks and Naomi win, but I could kind of see Ripley and Morgan picking up the W here as well. But I think I'm just going to play it safe with this one and go Banks and Naomi pick up the W, win the tag team championships. I don't think they hold it for too long, maybe a month, 2 months max. But yeah, I think you go with Sasha and Naomi here, because they'll just... another feel-good moment, but I think it'll be a good moment for everyone in attendance. And it'll be a cool visual, too, with Naomi's, feel the glow and that lighting and everything like that. So I think you have a lot of good that can come out of that. But next up we have Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. This one, surprisingly, is tough as well. As much as I would love to see Pat McAfee pick up the W here, I think you got to give it to Austin Theory. I don't think we can have Pat coming in here and just beating an actual wrestler, being Austin Theory. Now, again, I obviously am the first one to put over Mr. McAfee, like I did at the beginning of the show. But I just don't see it being this, unless it's like a fluke victory and he wins by like a roll-up or something like that. Then I can see it, which actually wouldn't be too surprising. But I think... And I don't even know if this is like a safe bet, but I think my money here is going to be on Austin Theory. But I think this is going to be a hell of a match. I think this is going to be really cool. I'm very excited to see what Pat's entrance is going to look like. And this is the first time that he's actually going to wrestle in front of fans, too. His previous 2 matches were in the Performance Center during the pandemic. So very cool and what a crazy moment, right? To have your first match in front of fans be at WrestleMania in front of 60,000 plus, we'll say. So, gonna be a crazy moment to say the least. But moving on, we have Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville, and this is the match that I just don't like this match. And say what you want, but I'm not a fan of Johnny Knoxville having an actual match. I get it. I love this version of Sami. I'm a big fan of Sami Zayn. I don't even hate Johnny Knoxville. He's whatever, jackass is jackass. It's fine. But I'm not really feeling what this is gonna be. And I get, like, especially, was it like, not like no hold, well, not no holds bar, but like anything goes or falls count anywhere, or one of those stipulations, which is obviously something that needed to be added. But I'm scared that Sami's gonna lose this. And as much as WWE loves to make sure their celebrities are taken care of, I can't sit here and make an actual prediction that Sami Zayn is going to lose to Johnny Knoxville at WrestleMania. So, my money is going to be on Sami Zayn picking up the W here. And I hope to God I'm right with this one, because if not, then I don't even know. But next up, we have the Raw Tag Team Championship. The champions being RK Bro defending against the Street Profits and Alpha Academy. This one is going to be a dope match. I think this is going to be another one of those sleeper matches. I'm very excited for all the guys really involved. Randy Orton is obviously no stranger, he's frequent at WrestleMania many, many times at this point, I'll say. But to see Matt Riddle on the card, the Street Profits, and Alpha Academy, and to be in a pretty big match, because say what you will, but with Randy Orton in your match, it elevates it automatically. So I think this is going to be a really, really good match. I can see it easily going 18-20 minutes. But I think that prediction-wise, I think I'm gonna go with RK Bro retaining here. Because I don't know. I'm torn because, again, it depends on how soon they want to break up RK Bro, if they're gonna hold out with them as a tag team for a few more months. But I'm gonna have RK Bro retain here, but I could easily see like the Street Profits picking up the victory here, which that would be really cool too. But next up on the card, and last but not least, we have Bobby Lashley versus Omas. And if you've listened to me in the past, you know I am not a fan of Omas. I am a big fan of Bobby Lashley, but I do not get the appeal of Omas. Nothing against him as a human being. I'm sure he's a cool dude. But the character, I don't believe. Every time I see him, he looks like he wants to laugh. And he looks like it's just a joke. And I'm sure the actual human being doesn't feel that way, but that's just the vibe that I get from his character, and I don't know why, but it just makes me angry, and it's kind of baffling, but I will be very upset. Just letting you know now, guys, if Bobby Lashley ends up losing to Omas, I think this moment should be for Bobby Lashley. Not that he really needs it. I guess Omas needs it more, but I am too stubborn to change my mind on Omas, and I'm going to stick with WWE knows that they can't do that to Bobby Lashley, so they're not going to. Again, I'm probably wrong, and it's going to hurt my heart, but I'm going with Bobby Lashley here because, again, I can't vote otherwise. So officially Bobby Lashley is taking the W here in my mind. I will mention as well, on Friday, we also have the 2022 class of the WWE Hall of Fame inductees, headlined, of course, by The Undertaker, I don't even know what I said there. Headlined by The Undertaker, rather, and being inducted by Vince McMahon, which I'm very intrigued to hear both speeches, Vince's and Undertaker's. So definitely looking forward to seeing that. We also have the Steiner brothers, who are a new addition to the Hall of Fame lineup. And if nothing else out of this weekend, I hope we give Scott Steiner a live mic. If we don't, then I don't even know what we're doing here at this point. We also have Vader, who is going to be inducted this year as well, which is long overdue. Not really going to get into that because that's a whole nother 15-20 minute rant that I could go on here, guys. But we also have Queen Sharmell, King Booker T's wife, who was Queen Sharmell back during the King Booker days mainly. She did, I think it was like a Nitro girl in WCW back in the day as well. But to be honest, I don't really know too much about that. But she is going to be inducted this year, along with this year's Warrior Award recipient being none other than Shad Gaspard. again, I said it before, and I will say it almost every time. WWE should rename the award after Shad. I think that no other human being defines that award than someone like Shad, and someone who made a sacrifice like that in a just unbelievable situation. Again, your condolences go out and your thoughts to everyone in his life. I can't even imagine, but Shad is going to be the recipient of the Warrior Award this year, and I'm super stoked that he's actually receiving it this year and finally receiving it. I think it's been about 2 years now, which is kind of crazy to think about as well. But that rounds up the Hall of Fame induction portion of this year's WWE WrestleMania event and the whole weekend. And that will be airing on the WWE Network on Peacock, just as a FYI for you guys. I believe it's immediately after Smackdown. I would obviously check your local listings, but I'm pretty sure that's the lay of the land and the lineup for us over here. But that is the WrestleMania prediction lineup and prediction card prediction show. I hope you guys have had a fantastic week so far and you guys enjoy WrestleMania. I will talk with you guys again next week. It's going to feel like forever, and I'm already kind of missing it already, but maybe if there's some free time, we'll see what we can do, but most likely I will not be able to record it at the earliest until next Thursday. So take care, guys, and we will talk next week about WrestleMania Night 1, Night 2, the Raw after Mania, and everything in between. Take care, guys, and enjoy WrestleMania week.